What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Danso Financial Podcast. We missed you guys. This is Rami Ibrahim here, Public Relations for Danso Financial Group. And I'm here with my team ready to record another great episode for you guys.
This is Daniel Goodman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Danso Financial Group. I know you guys have missed me. I haven't been on the podcast in a while, but it's great to be back.
Hey guys, it's Charles. You already know who I am, so no introductions needed.
The man does not need an introduction. That's how you know his presence is felt. So today we are going to be talking about empowering female entrepreneurship. And to my right, we have the lovely Julissa Fontaine, the founder and CEO of Millennivision Networks, here to drop some real knowledge on you guys. So I want to welcome you, Julissa, to the show. But actually, one second, we don't call her that. We're going to call her Juju for the rest of this show.
Please and thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So thank you guys so much for having me on this podcast. Once again, everyone, my name is Julissa Fontaine. Please call me Juju. It might as well be my first name. So to anybody watching this, if I ever see you, it's Juju. Perfectly fine. So once again, I actually started Millennivision Networks in August of 2018 last year. It was something that I actually stumbled upon. I never meant to start the company. The reason I actually started it was because I did a very big project for a nonprofit organization, and the only way they could pay me was as an LLC. And then I realized that with her telling me that, I felt like if I'm gonna start this to get a paycheck, there's obviously something that I'm very good at that I should really and truly make a business out of. And I guess that's what we're gonna be talking about today.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to talk about a lot today, but that's insane. You didn't even plan for that at all.
Absolutely
You
not.
had no plans to start a business at that time.
Not that time, absolutely
But
not.
you made it happen.
Yes.
That's very, that's impressive. You say you didn't plan to start that business, but what were you planning for before that? Where were you headed towards?
Yep. Okay. So I actually graduated from the University at Albany. Fellow
Right.
alums. Hello.
We here.
However, my route was very different than you guys. Everybody here was, basically in business and doing all these amazing things, but I was actually on the pre-medical track. So my goal really and truly was, go to college, get the good grades. I was always very involved with various communities throughout high school. So I kind of felt like even though medicine is my journey, it's my passion, it's what I want to do, what else can I do during my 4 years to make an impact around the people that I already have around me? And I felt like I did a lot of things, not even going to go into it all because it's too much. But after a couple of months from graduating, I went into the nonprofit field. I had the lovely, Danso over here. He actually came here to speak to my students about his profession and the failures and the success that he's had throughout the past couple of years, and it was a great job. I loved working with the students. However, at some point I felt like an imposter. And I felt like an imposter because my purpose for being there was to introduce them to an array of opportunity, telling them that yes, medicine is great, you can be a doctor, but you can do other things as well. And I realized that I was teaching them that, but I wasn't practicing it because I didn't even take the time to explore the field of medicine myself. I just knew that it was between PA, RN, and MD. And the MD seems to be the chief, so that's what I wanted to do. And then I realized that that's no longer what I want to do.
Wow. So, that's kind of very important, that flexibility you talk about. You weren't planning to start a business, you started it, you got paid. You were trying to be a doctor, and are you still studying to be a doctor?
Nope. So what I'm actually doing right now is I'm applying for graduate school. So if everybody watching this, pray for me, give me your blessings. I hope I have no haters, don't wish against me. But I do plan on going into health technology. For those of you who may not know, as millennials, a lot of us actually don't see our PCPs, which are our primary care providers. And I realized that digital health seems to be the best way to go for our age group because one, we're always busy, or we think we're always busy.
Yeah.
We don't want to pay for healthcare if your job doesn't, fully pay for everything. So a lot of companies are developing apps to bridge the gap between your hospital visit and just you being at home or wherever you are. And that's kind of the industry that I want to break into outside of the medical.
Okay, perfect. I do like pretty much what you're detailing for the audience. Definitely bringing them up to speed of who you are, what you're doing so far, how far along you are with yourself. One thing I do want to kind of touch upon is female entrepreneurship. That is the key of the podcast, and that's something that I do want to highlight. So a question I do want to start, just to kind of shed light on it, is what do you believe that the struggle is for female entrepreneurs as opposed to male entrepreneurs on a financial level? I was reading a statistic somewhere where it said that female entrepreneurship is one of the fastest growing quote unquote industries or facets of an industry right now. But I also see the alternative is lack of funding for females. And I just want to get a perspective. Obviously, we're males here, so we can't speak in the female facet.
Right.
So we definitely want to get your perspective. Why do you believe that females might not get the funding as male entrepreneurs or male people that work in the corporate industry get?
Right, absolutely. So throughout the past couple of months, I've actually took the opportunity to visit a lot of capital programs, finding out different ways for women entrepreneurs to get funding. In my current state for my company right now, we're not looking for funding. We're still building the foundation, but I felt it was very important to surround myself with women who are going for that. And what I've realized is that your statistic is absolutely true. Women are the fastest growing population of entrepreneurs. I think the stat is, and don't mark my word, you can do further research, but apparently it's only about 0.2% of Black or Latino women, specifically, who get even venture capitalism. So there's not a lot of funding for us. They say that there's funding for us. People are advocating for women entrepreneurs, but you're just not seeing the financial benefits of that. For me, I think it's two different things. I think there's an internal struggle as a woman, and then there's the external opportunity where it's like you're competing against a lot of men who may have more confidence than you, or people think they have more confidence than you because they're men. So I kind of pitch it two different ways. Internally, for a lot of women that I've encountered, there's always this situation where you feel like you already don't have all the resources you need, and you feel like for you to even go up in front of a population of people and pitch your work looking for money, you feel like, who am I to even stand there in front of these people, and I still don't feel prepared. I feel like the difference in men is that even if a man isn't fully prepared, he will still give it a shot. And that's already that part right there, is the lack of confidence that I know a lot of women have when it comes to putting themselves out there to ask for the money. Also, a lot of people, well, not people, women in particular, will feel like you don't want to beg, you don't feel like you're worthy of getting the funding at the moment. And when you're pitching it, you probably just get a little cramped up. You feel nervous. You don't feel like you were able to give the best of it all, because most of the time, too, the people you're asking for money from are men already. And you probably already have this connotation that they're not even interested in it. They're just hearing you just to say that they're listening to you. And that could be very disheartening as well. On the other hand, I feel like how I just referenced before about how there will be a lot of men that you're going to asking for money. I really and truly feel like this whole glorifying woman entrepreneur thing, to my ladies, this is no discrimination to anybody, but there are a lot of discrepancies in terms of which kind of women are receiving funding, right? So if you are seeing women getting funding, most of them happen to be women of European descent, and once again, women of color, they're the ones that are kind of reaping the back burner, and they're the ones that are not getting that. And if you are aware of that statistic, what does that tell you as a woman? Should I even try, or should I just hope that by God's grace, somebody will give me the opportunity and give me the funding? So overall, I would just say that it's really and truly just a confidence thing. It's kind of like, what's the point of asking for something that already seems to never be given? And I feel like even for me, I wouldn't say that it's discouraged me necessarily, but I feel like it's definitely taught me that I need to do a lot more research. I need to go a lot much harder than a lot of people who are actually asking for money as well. So that's my overall opinion on that statistic.
Thank you.
What would you say to, if you had a room full of women in front of you and, as you say, 0.2% only, what would you say to that 99.8% of women? How should they go about trying to gain that confidence and getting what they deserve?
Absolutely. So for me personally, what I usually do is I usually gather my friends or find peers that I know who I'm comfortable with, or even not as comfortable with, and I'll just speak to them about my business. Like, this is the research I've done, this is what I want to do, this is my goal, this is what I'm going to do to achieve that goal, and just kind of have them tell me, how do you feel about what I just provided to you? Do you feel like there's a need there? Do you feel like I sound like I'm just doing this just because there's a financial gain to it? How do you feel about what I'm expressing to you? Because I feel like if the people who are already in my direct community don't vibe with what I'm telling them about my company, then there's obviously something that's not going right there. And if they feel that way, how is somebody who's not a part of that community gonna feel? They're probably gonna feel either the same exact way, or they probably just don't want to hear much after the first 2 words. And you would never want to be in a situation where you're telling someone about your business, even more so looking for funding, and after the first 3 words, they're like, cut. You would never want to experience that.
So going back to, you mentioned that sort of glass ceiling that's there when you're going to receive funding from certain individuals. What would you say is like the things that give you the confidence to go up and go into that kind of male dominated area and ask for funding, or even have them listen to you about your business, or talk to professionals who could potentially be future clients? What goes through your mind in preparation for that?
Absolutely. I think this should be anybody. For me, my confidence stems from the fact that I feel like I've developed a strong network, and not necessarily a network to support what I'm trying to do, but more importantly, a network that's going to be honest with what I'm trying to do. So when I say that, I mean, I'm always looking for mentors. That's the first thing I always do, mentorship. And I don't mean necessarily that's exactly my mentor who I talk to every single day, but someone who can give me advice on a particular aspect of my business. So if I know that you are the top-notch finance guy, if I know that you are the top-notch marketing strategist woman, whatever the case may be, I want to speak to you about my business plan. I want to speak to you about the nature of what I'm trying to do. The more information I get from outside people who are not directly my friends, who are giving me genuine responses on what I'm developing, those are the ones who make me feel more confident, because they're telling me they like the idea, and they're giving me honest opinion on what certain things I should be working on more, and what certain things seem to already be somewhat perfect. So I feel like just developing that network alone, and actually outsourcing and interacting with people who can give you genuine advice, that already for me tells me that I'm doing something right. That's the first thing, finding that information. The second part of it is really just yourself, like going in the mirror, practicing over and over again. 'Cause like I said before, the idea is already in your mind. You know what you want to do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The issue is, how do I explain it to people? Are they receptive to it? It's really just a confidence factor. After that, everything else that happens is just you failing and starting over and failing and starting over again. So after developing that network, once again, practicing with yourself, practicing with those around you, sharing what you have in mind, sharing the structure of it, and really and truly just seeing how people receive it. And I feel like once you can go through those 2 networks, I feel like after that, your confidence is there. And that's how it was for me. So for me, if you don't vibe with what I'm saying, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I want to know, like, what do you feel like maybe I should be offering more of? What should I offer less of? Maybe you have other ideas that I should be incorporating into what I'm trying to do. I want more information from you, because what I'm trying to produce is for you. So that's how I kind of gain my confidence in what I'm trying to do.
And that's great. I like that you brought up the fact of failure, because I think we all can agree that we use failure as sort of a lesson in preparation for the future. We do something, we do A and we realize A don't work, so we go to B, and B seems to be the better way. So can you give us kind of your interpretation of failure, and kind of like something that may not have worked out for you and what you learned from it, and just a general overview on it?
So that question actually just really and truly asked me what my business is, because it stems from a failure. So when I first started the company in August of 2018, after accidentally starting it, I decided that I want to do something that I felt like I've always been doing but never thought of as a business. So with me being someone who was pursuing medicine, a lot of work that I've done was very business related or politically related. So when I came out of college, people were offering me jobs from the business, sector and from the politics sector, but I kept denying it because that wasn't what I was going for. However, when I would reject those roles, I would say, I know Jamie, I know Brandon, I know Marcy, they're interested in doing these kinds of things. Maybe if I reference them, you can check them out and tell me how they do. And a lot of times those people would get those jobs that I was once offered. And I was thinking about, I know people do recruitment, I know people do networking events, they do all these different things that are a platform for people to gain, career opportunity. So I'm like, if I've been doing that just as Julissa Fontaine, why not create a platform that literally does that same exact thing? So when I started, it was strictly networking events. And how I thought of it was I would grow that from networking events to consulting with like recruitment companies and other outside companies who wanted to learn more about diversifying their employees. And it was great in the beginning. People came to the events, that was dope. But I realized that at some point, after like, I think my third or fourth event, I started to see that there was less people attending. And for me, I looked at that as a failure, but not because the quality of the event wasn't great, because people loved it. I wasn't marketing myself enough. Like, that was my failure. My failure was I was relying on the network I already had. I wasn't growing another network. It was strictly on people who I knew from New York City, people who I knew from Albany, and that was just it. And that's not enough, because if you want to create a business, you need to ensure that a lot of different people know what you're doing and what you're about. And I was relying on the fact that I have these natural supporters who truly believe in anything I do, and that's why they support, but you can't rely on that. So I decided that after seeing that my event wasn't necessarily failing, but it was struggling off of something I wasn't putting much effort into, which was the marketing, I decided that if I want my events to grow, if I want the nature of what I'm trying to do to grow, maybe I should be making it into a media or digital media online-based platform. And that's what I'm making it into now. That's the reason why it's going to become an online platform catered to providing necessary resources and opportunities to professionals, to creatives, to entrepreneurs. Because if I can't do that through media, how am I going to get the information out here? How am I going to have them know about the events that I'm doing and the consulting opportunities that I want to provide? And that's why I changed it out of a failure. So what I want to say to that is, I don't really believe in failure. I believe in readjusting. I feel like if you feel like something hasn't absolutely 100% failed, but the service you're providing is not receiving as much attention as it used to, that means that there's an opportunity for you to go out there and learn more about what you can do. And that's what that experience was for me.
What you just said is like one of the biggest things for any entrepreneur in this world, or for anything in life. It's not failure. Something might turn some people off, but it's about the ones who will be able to succeed are the ones that can brush it off. Yep. And what'd you say? Readjusting, right?
That's readjusting. It's not failing. Readjusting.
If you don't readjust after every failure, then the failure just sinks in and it'll take away from you. But if you readjust, you can build something on top of that failure. So that's really good advice.
And I do want to go off on that because I know that we're focusing a lot on women entrepreneurship, right? And just kind of going back to the confidence thing, I remember sharing like my situation with a couple of other women entrepreneurs, and they were telling me how they had started like, I guess, certain entrepreneur-like endeavors, and they felt like after that first trial, people weren't really, once again, interested in what they had to offer, and they kind of had a shutdown moment where if that doesn't work, then that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna focus on, climbing the ladder in my job, and that's gonna be my life. And I would always tell people, like, you don't want to stop because something didn't work the first time. Like, you want to always continue, but a lot of women don't feel like they have that support. It's kind of like fake support, like, yeah, I'm a guy, I'm a woman, I'm gonna just say I praise women entrepreneurship, but who's really going to invest in your product? Who's really going to spread the word for you? I feel like that's when it kind of differs a little bit, because you kind of need someone else externally to give you that push, and that push isn't really there physically or even fiscally. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs can attest to that. I have
a question that it's kind of been looming over me for some time now.
Tell me.
But now that we have a female entrepreneur in here, I do want to know the secrets of what are these women empowerment stuff? I just want to know about them.
I can chat about this. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm just trying to find out.
You got it started, Charles.
Yes. Okay.
What goes on in there? I just want to know. That's all.
All right. So I'm going to give a truth, and I'm going to give some information that I'm sure that other women may not like that I have to say. But I'm all about women empowerment if it's genuine. That's the first thing. If it's genuine. I've realized that in business, it's very important to build a community first and then give them the product. That's the nature of marketing a lot of times. So a lot of women are starting like women empowerment Instagram pages and, all these kind of community development projects. But then when you meet some of these women who lead these projects and do these things, they may say encouraging words on a microphone, but when you interact with them, that's not the same vibe that you always get, because some of them really and truly do this strictly for a business rather than the genuine aspect of empowering women. So I say that because even though the nature of what it is so great, I really want to remind women that if you are doing something like that, there's nothing wrong with making a business out of it, but you have to be genuine all across the board. The genuinity can't just come from, a little cute post on Instagram and it's like, come to this event afterwards. It needs to be consistent, and I feel like a lot of times it's not. That's the negative aspect. On the more positive side, because it really is more positive than negative. In these events, really and truly, it's just having a conversation like we're having now. Like, why do you think women are not getting funding? Why do you feel like women are starting businesses, but they may stop pursuing it after the first failure or whatever it is? How do you overcome that? And then usually you will witness other women, you know, opening up. Like, you know, I share a similar experience where this didn't work out for me. However, what I decided to do was, you know, pick myself up and go for the next venture, or just kind of once again readjust what I was doing, going back to the readjusting thing. So I would say that what we talk about in terms of women empowerment is not that much different than what you guys will talk about amongst yourselves, but hearing it from other women is more comforting because you understand that there's a system that just doesn't want to support you where you really need it most. And that's here. It is. And I know that I know another aspect that we often talk about is the nature of women producing businesses that are very similar, right? So it's like the eyelash thing, it's the hair products, it's the soap. I know everybody's always coming at women for, you know, like always like, I guess, doing this whole beauty thing. But what you have to understand is that if that's what you know, why would that not be a good place to start? And I feel like that's the reason why having these women empowerment events or opportunities are great, because sometimes there's always people on social media, whether it's guys, women, whatever it is, and they're consistently bashing what you're doing, but it's your way of living. Yeah. And it's your first step into entrepreneurship, because a lot of women are not taught about business and finance and all these different things. So how would they know to step into that field without starting in beauty first or something of that sort? You only start up where you know, and that's what they know. So these are things that I know that we talk about often in like women empowerment events, is just like the concept of just starting something that you already know that people seem to be so against because everybody's doing it. But if you think about it, look at the big four. They're all the same thing: consulting, accounting, whatever the case may be. And people will literally praise them for being the big four companies that do almost the same thing. Do they all have that one thing that they're more known for? Absolutely, but they do the same thing. So why can't women all sell eyelashes and hair products or whatever it is too? Why not? So those are the conversations we have.
I want to stay on that, and then I'll let Rami speak. But I do want to highlight that one thing I do give a lot of female entrepreneurs, yourself included, is branding. I think branding is a great concept, of course, an essential concept within a business. But I do want to highlight that, not even just more so for females, but just as an entrepreneur. What is your take on the importance of branding?
Oh, branding is everything. That's the reason why I included the creative demographic to the population of people I want to support. So I don't know if you guys noticed, which I'm sure every entrepreneur should notice, is that once again, a lot of people are starting similar businesses. So I know that this is a financial group. You guys are helping businesses develop themselves in all aspects. Yes. But a lot of other companies are doing that as well. And that's why obviously branding is so important, because as millennials, we're a very entrepreneurial generation. Everybody wants to start something. Everybody's driven by, you know, developing like wealth in their families. Yeah. And if you want to be a part of this competition and you're offering similar services, what do you need to do? You need to develop a brand that's going to separate you from all the other companies that are doing the same thing. Because a lot of times you're doing the same thing. There's just something that you're probably offering that's more spicy, but someone needs to come to you because they saw your brand out there. They saw your name out there. So when I think about branding, I think about it in terms of your reach. I think about it in terms of design, whether it's your logo, whether it's your Instagram page, your social media. I think about it how we talked about before. Podcasting is also marketing. All these different things that you're doing to ensure that people see your brand and they're interested in what it looks like. Then they hear it and they feel it and they vibe with it. And for that reason, they want to be a part of your service. They want to be a part of your network. That's what people look to when they think about branding. So I absolutely agree that branding is very, very important. And I will say this. I think women do a very good job when it comes to branding in particular.
I agree.
Because women are very women are naturally creative. Like that's what women usually do, you know, like that we have a good eye for things, you know? So I feel like when it comes to branding, and like I said, going back to this whole eyelash thing and the beauty product thing, a lot of them are offering the same eyelashes and same bundles, but a lot of them happen to really make their brand look very aesthetically pleasing, you know, like the way they market themselves with all the photography, the videography, the photo shoots, everything that they're doing, they all do it a little bit differently, and that's what I think attracts certain people to that product versus another woman's product. So I do agree that branding is very important as long as you're really and truly going hard with it.
Nah, we're learning too.
Yeah, and you know what, too? Branding is interesting because you never stop branding. Like even with Millennivision, like I said, like we put the business on pause for a couple of months because we wanted to realign the vision. But after you realign your vision, you have to realign your brand, right? How is it going to look to people? So oftentimes, even on our own social media, we put things out, see how people respond to it. We delete, put new things out, see how people respond to it, because we're in a testing stage. And there's nothing wrong with being in a testing stage because you want to see how people receive your brand. Social media in particular is very important because that's where most people see what you do. Once upon a time, everything was word of mouth. Like, oh, I heard that, Uncle Bernie's doing this. Who's Uncle Bernie? That man down the block who has that trucking company. Like, everything was strictly word of mouth. But now we have the internet, and people don't even want to hear that. They want to know, let me see it. What's the Instagram? What's the Facebook page? What's the Spotify? That's the nature that we live in now. So that's why for us in particular, we decided to take the time to just put things out there, take things off, see how people receive it, and then that's how we build our brand. And we're still building it. It never stops.
And speaking on social media, when it comes to branding, do you believe in particular that, and this is kind of just my observation on it, do followers and the clout, they like to say, let's say you have 20K followers or something for the business, is that more attractive for people to come and do business with you versus you just starting out and having 500 followers or what have you?
The sad reality is it depends on who your target is, and I think for a lot of us, our targets are people who are probably 18 to 35, and I feel like for our generation, sadly, people want to see your followers. They feel like if I see that you have 10K followers, I really want to know what you do because 10K people are following you. And even though it's a cool thing because if you have those followers, obviously you're attracting more people. The bad part to that is because if you have 10K followers, that doesn't always mean that all 10K are engaged. You get me? That doesn't even mean that 1K are engaged. I've seen pages that literally have 20K, 25K followers and 500 likes per picture, and that doesn't add up to me. Why do you have 500 likes per picture with 20K followers? That means that either you're just having random people follow you just because, or you're just doing this just to look cool and you're trying to trick people into believing that you're a very poppin' business. But for me personally, as someone who understands business, if I see a page with a lot of followers, the first thing I'm looking to is how many comments you get under your picture and how many likes you're getting on your picture. Because if I don't feel like they compare at all, I can tell that you're falsifying something.
You mentioned that you first align your vision, you figure out your vision, get it set, and then you align your brand, and that's how you can raise a following. How have you gone about, I know that you just reworked your vision, how have you gone about with that, that pivot you just made, how have you gone about branding that, or how do you plan to go that route to raise some real engagement? Because I feel like I've seen you and I've known you for a few years, and you seem like somebody who engages the people around you, and you have a really authentic following. So I want to know how can you spread that message for other women out there?
Absolutely. Okay, so in terms of engaging people in your brand, once again, we are a generation of social media, so that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. This is the number one thing that I did to gain even the first 1,000 followers I had, right? And like I said, right now I only have about, I think, 1,200, but it's because, once again, we were inactive, so we definitely lost a lot of followers, just to be honest, because we stopped. But set goals. Literally, when I first started the company, whatever day of the week that was, I said in the next week and a half, I told all my friends in the group chat, I promise you in a week and a half, I will have 1,000 followers on Millennivision's page. And it wasn't the content. You know what it was? I DM'd a lot of people and told them to follow my page. That was the first thing I did. If you say you support me the way you support me, the least you can do is literally just click the follow button on my page. That's the first thing anybody should do with their Instagram, YouTube, or whatever else the case may be. Literally put it out there that I'm starting a company. There's not much content on it yet. There will be, but I know you support everything that I do. Can you please follow my page? And it applies pressure because if I DM you on Instagram, I know when you leave me on scene. So it's kind of
that feature is so helpful.
That's right. So it's kind of like if I DM'd you and you left me on scene, I really see what it's hitting for. You get me? So I felt like It wasn't very, for me, I thought it was very clever because it definitely got me to reach a little bit over the goal that I set for myself. But what it really did overall was people actually wanted to know what it was. Like, I was like, hey, I'm starting Millennivision. I'm going to have a lot of networking events that will create career opportunities. Follow the page. And they were like, okay, I'm going to follow it because it's you. But no, like, that sounds kind of cool. Like, tell me more. And like, literally just me writing all those people, that alone was the trigger for everything. That was my first step.
That took a lot of confidence to...
Oh, yes. My friends was like, you're not going to feel annoying? I don't believe in feeling annoying. I ran for president. I had to beg for votes. You get me? Like, literally, like, running for student government, I felt was... I want to say it was uncomfortable. I've never been shy. I really want to say I was once upon a time shy. I wasn't, so I can't give that narrative. But running for president gave me the most confidence I ever had because I had to ask people I never met before to vote for me. I had no idea who they were. They had no idea who I was, but I knew that I wanted to create a better experience for them on campus, and I was gonna make time to explain why. So if I could do that on social media and on foot, why can't I do that for my business? So that was the first thing. That was social media. Then you produce the content afterwards. I reached that 1,000 goal. I said, you know what? Let me start giving them some content. I was never really a graphic designer. That's number one. I was marketing director of the student government at Albany, and I somewhat made flyers, but I had a lot of general ideas about what marketing should be like, how to get our brand out there, and I was good at that. Millennivision put pressure on me to actually start doing some graphic design, and that's where I tested out to see how people would respond. So what I would do is I would create content that actually were presented in the form of a question. Because I feel like, a lot of like mixy platforms like Shade Room and Baller Alert, that's what they were doing. And I felt like what I'm trying to do isn't music entertainment, but I feel like your job and your career should be everything you care about, so that if I'm asking you a question on social media, why not respond to it? It's about jobs, it's about money. And people actually responded to it. I got comments under it. People liked it because it was in the form of a question. It was in the form of something to respond to. The same way how people post really like cool pictures with like cool outfits. It's like, oh, that outfit is fire. They'll comment under it, that outfit is fire, right? So I would put out different content that I know my audience usually responds to or likes. And that's how I would feel out, my brand, my social media content, all that kind of stuff. That's social media. Now, the word of mouth part, because I feel like that's still a thing, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Literally, one of my best hobbies coming back to the city, I felt like I didn't want to stay in Albany because I felt like staying in Albany was going to be too easy. And when I say too easy, I felt like, outside of the U-Albany community, I knew a lot of people in Albany, New York. And I wanted to come back to the city and be challenged. I feel like you could be from the city, and live there your whole 18 years, come back and it's like nobody after college. Yeah. You get me? So I kind of felt like I want that struggle. I want that challenge, because if you can flourish in New York City, you can flourish anywhere. And I made it a hobby. I made an account on Eventbrite, and I signed up to just go to a whole bunch of free networking events. And I just went to all these events, stayed there, enjoyed their event. I have Millennivision, this is what it is. Come to my event, follow our page. Also got a lot of following from that.
Now, did you go to these events alone, or you went with people?
I went by myself. Oh, I don't care. I don't wait for anybody to go anywhere. But like I said, it goes back to the confidence factor of being a woman.
Absolutely.
I'm just really good at accepting the words no or not interested. Or I ran a campaign. I ran to be a president of 14,500 students. So I felt like if I can do that, everyone's not gonna like the work I do. Everyone's not gonna like everything I say. And if I can spiritually handle that, I think I can spiritually handle the world of business. So that's what gave me the confidence to really go out there and say, hey, I got this company. They were like, I'm okay. I'm like, are you sure? Come to an event. And I'm not gonna lie to you, every event that I've went to, I was able to get at least one person from that event to come to my event, which means I did something right. So once again, it's the social media and it's the footwork. And if you work really strange hours where you're not able to find yourself at these networking events, then once again, do very strange things on social media, like reaching out to random people. Like, hey, I see you on social media. It looks like your interest is in business finance. I'm having an event around business finance. I know we don't know each other, but I think you would really like it. You should definitely come out. I've done that, and that worked too.
And these journeys that you took, these all kind of correlate to this idea in my head that just formed, that you've been constantly stepping out of your comfort zone, constantly being challenging yourself.
Have to, absolutely. And like I said, going back to women again, a lot of times you feel like the world's against you, and certain times they are. One thing I will say to personally, my experience with guys from like 20 to like 28, I feel like are very supportive. I feel like as guys over 30 who kind of give you a harder time in being receptive to what you want to do and what you represent, because it's like they're probably thinking back to the old times, like, that's just a woman, you know? She's doing this like a little project. People call it like your little company. You know, if you're Caribbean, your little this. Your little this. It's not little. It might be small right now, but trust me, I'm working towards making it bigger. And that's not Jerlisa Fontaine. That's a lot of women. Even some men can relate to that as well. But really and truly just focusing on how am I going to be able to, you know, have people tell me they're not interested in what I have to produce and still saying I'm still gonna go out there, put the word out there, gain a following, do my very best to do so, and that's all you can do. That's really all you can do. But once again, I mean, like I said before, I know the focus is women entrepreneurship, but I feel like there's a lot of struggles that women encounter in entrepreneurship that guys really relate to. I feel like for women, the main hardship is just people looking at you seriously. That's really all it is. You know, it's European males who are usually the funders and them looking at you and saying, I'll take this seriously. Because right now in this industry, if it's not fintech or some tech project, a lot of people will not fund your work. That's just straight up. I've been to a lot of events and they were very honest about that. And they will tell you that if it's not technology, they're not going to be as willing to invest in you because technology is the most booming industry right now. And everybody wants a hand in that. And a lot of women don't grow up being taught tech. So if you don't grow up in that nature, then why would you produce a technological product? That's not your nature. Once again, going back to the beauty thing, if that's what you know, that's what you invent, who is going to fund that if everybody else is doing it and it's not a part of an industry that people see as futuristic? That's when it comes back.
I want to get into before I basically give it to you guys, but there's two things that I did notice in your discussion that kind of piqued my interest. Was number one, you spoke of basically having leadership positions, prerequisite to you even starting your business. So my one question is how important do you believe it is to not even be in a leadership position, to basically get into the working world, to have an understanding of how a business even operates and what are the intricacies within the business? And my other question, well, I'll let you answer this first. But my other question I want to just ask in that aspect of it is also, and anybody that's listening, I'm going to preference this, how I'm going to say it. You spoke to European individuals. Yep. I'm just going to be honest. I'll just say white people. Yep. So I'll say it flat out. I'm going to say it flat out.
That's fine too.
But because again, we're speaking to everybody, but we do focus on minorities because that's where the lack of funding especially doesn't come. The lack of resources is especially a lot harder to obtain.
That's right.
So how do you believe leveraging the aspect of quote unquote a white male or white woman, how does that benefit someone that has a business that is of a minority? How do you think leveraging them, as in how do you think, let's say you have an event with somebody that's, I don't know, Bob, whatever his name is, how do you think that could help grow your business being Juju?
Okay. So that second question made me forget the first.
Yeah.
So that question was a great question. So one thing I definitely take pride in is, like, honestly, I've always been true to myself. Like, absolutely always been true to myself. I felt like the great thing about Albany was I was around different kinds of people. Before I came to college, people kind of told me you may have to change your voice a little bit. You may have to change the way you act a little bit because you're probably not going to be around people of color. And I was like, well, I'm okay with not being around people of color because I guess it's a new opportunity. It's college. It's usually a predominantly white institution, but I'm not changing. And I always stuck to that. The great part about Albany was I was able to interact with people of various backgrounds, and I felt like no one ever treated me poorly because of how I looked. What they think about me may be something different. How they treated me, on the other hand, was no different. So I realized that I was able to at least have some form of relatability there to all different kinds of people. So with that being said, going back to your question is, what I usually try my best to do is that if I'm having an event, and usually my target is people of color, like people who are Black, Latinx, Middle Eastern, so on and so forth. That's what I'm usually targeting because those are the ones where, depending on your industry, you're losing out on opportunity in your career goals. And I would usually say that to my white counterparts, listen, I'm having this event. I know you be doing your thing. I know that you're in this field, you're in that field, but come out to my event, see what it's about. You never know who you may meet. You never know who you may like. And listen, maybe you could put them on. Because at the end of the day, if you don't interact with the people who have the roles you want, how are you going to get that job? Like, you have to. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I also changed my structure. I realized that my business was a safe space for people of color, but that's only after work. What am I doing when they're at work? You know, like a lot of them are not comfortable there. You know, they always talk about, I'm tired of laughing at like Johnny's jokes and Sally's jokes. Like, you know, it's not funny. I want to feel more comfortable in my workplace. And I definitely feel that. Like, who wouldn't want that? Yeah. So I kind of feel like if every time you leave work, the only space you come to is only people of color, you're always going to go back to work feeling that same exact way. And that's the reason why I wanted to make it media, so that I can leverage different populations of people so that they can come to the event and spread their knowledge, spread their wealth, spread the opportunity, because they're the ones that have it right now. And until we, you know, at least forget it. They're real spicy. But.
Well, we'll save the hot takes.
I want to get crazy real quick. I have to like stop that line right there.
So going off of that conversation that Charles just sparked, you said something very key that you know. Simply put, the wealth is in the wealth has always traditionally been in the white communities.
That's where it is. You gotta get
if you want to be a part of that, if you want to be wealthy, you have to surround yourself with the people that
already have the wealth.
That have the wealth. You got to be out of your comfort zone. But to tie back into the question, he kind of made that question about, you know, as people of color or minorities, do you feel the need to be partnered up or to have like somebody that's white?
In business? Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant in terms of community. I'm sorry.
Well, both. I'm glad you explained that also. Yeah, that still benefits.
But,
I answer that.
But what I'm saying is, he brought up the fact, like, do you feel as a person of minority descent that we need somebody that is like white to further ourselves? But I want to ask that question again, but as a woman, do you feel the need to have a man like on your board or on as the face of your business? Like, you know what I'm saying? Do you feel the need that to propel your business forward, you'd be more successful with a man? Is that something that resonates, or do you think that people would resonate with?
That's a great question. I definitely feel like that's something that people would resonate with. I don't personally, like I said before, only because I've been put in situations to develop the confidence and understand that whatever I'm fighting for is going to be a struggle. I wouldn't say that I put any man on my team because I felt like I need that person as representation to get money or to just stand for the business. Personally, I just really believe in difference of opinion. And I kind of realized that naturally it was going to be an all-woman team. And I kind of felt like, not that they wouldn't have their own opinion, but it goes back to the diversity and inclusion concept. The same way how we want to be people of color in white spaces, it's kind of like, I don't want to have an all-woman, like, you know, team, and it's like, where's my diversity? Just because it's all black doesn't mean that's diversity. Like, where's the man perspective? So for me, I put a man on a team because I wanted that diversity in terms of perspective, diversity in terms of thought. However, for other people, in terms of what you're asking, I do feel like there are people who feel like they have to have a man on their team to be the face of the business, or to at least be the face of explaining to other men what the business is. So depending on what space you're going into, if it's a meeting, if you're the woman and you're the CEO, that's what you are. I mean, I can't imagine a woman saying, I'm not gonna go to a meeting because I'm a woman. I'm gonna make the guy look like the CEO. But I feel like if you're going to be in a space where everybody there is a man and you're pitching your business or whatever it is, then I'm sure there's people who bring that man with them to have that representation, letting them know like, hey, I have this too. So you could trust that he's gonna, you know, carry the weight. But I feel like personally, I'm not worried about that. Not that I'm not like I'm sure that I'm gonna be the greatest, you know, person out there. I'll be Oprah, but only because I'm okay with enduring how hard it's going to be because other people have endured that and they've made it. Look at Oprah.
Absolutely. And you speak of Oprah. Is she like one of your entrepreneurial role models? And like,
don't get me wrong. I feel like everybody, black, white, Puerto Rican, and Asian, who's a billionaire, I feel like they all done something wrong, personally. But I always say that if I could be in the room with any one person in this world, I need a moment with Oprah. I need to know what she did, how she got there, what happened behind the scenes, what did it take, who invested in you, because if you are a black woman and you are a billionaire, I mean, I can only imagine how much white money is in your work, and does that have a restraint on what you can say and what you can do? I think we know the answer, obviously, but it's kind of like, what is that like? Because that's actually a fear of mine. Like my fear is that, no offense, but I feel like in our community, some of us don't have the capital to support, right? So that's already that part. But I feel like a lot of people of color who do have the capital to support in our community, we still don't give it. We're so caught up on spending on Gucci, Louis, Fendi, and all these different things, but you don't want to pay $10 to go to your bro's event or buy his shirt or whatever else the case may be. And the reason why I want to talk to someone like Oprah is because I would love Black money, Latin money to flow through my business so that I can gain that capital and know that I'll always be loyal to my community and who I'm targeting. But my concern is that in a world where we don't naturally support each other to that, level, am I going to have to rely on outside sources to, of course, bring me to where I need to be? And will that limit what I say and what I can do? And that's my biggest concern, is having that kind of money run through my business and restraining me in my opinions. That's my fear. So I can say that I'm confident in almost every way, but I feel like when I think about that money flowing through my business, that's what kind of concerns me the most. Where a man's gonna tell me, I invest $100 million in your company. If you say that, I'm pulling out. That's scary.
And that is a concern, especially when you get to those higher levels and you're dealing with that type of third-party investments and you have these controlling stakes.
Right.
It really comes down to, okay, the money is talking.
That's absolutely
not
right.
the face of the person. So that's a real concern.
That's my fear. That's my only fear.
That is a very legitimate fear and something that we as minorities always have to, keep that in our mind. Like we don't want to say the wrong thing or because one wrong thing really puts us in a hole.
And I'm open.
And you are open.
I was open during everything I do, so that concerns me, right?
So since we're getting near the ending of our podcast, I want to talk about what you just said, which was your fear is being limited or being almost silenced.
Right.
But you want to stay true to you want to be loyal to your community and loyal to where you came from.
Right.
So how going forward how are you going to be loyal to your community while still being so inclusive? Because you're all about networking and community. Talk about how you're going to work on keeping that balance. It's a fine balance of not triggering somebody, but including everybody.
Right.
And it's a tough balance. So how are you going to do that going forward with Millennivision Networks?
Okay, that's a good question. I really wish I had a more complicated answer to it, but by nature, that's just who I am. I've always been very good at connecting to people. I've always been very good at communicating the way I feel authentically. Like I said, for that reason, I've had some pretty tough times my senior year as president because once again, if that's how I feel, that's how I feel about things. And I realized that a lot of times we think that someone's not going to want to hear what we have to say, but I've encountered a lot of white people who really felt like, yo, I heard your story. There were some things in there I was like, but no, I'm glad you shared that. You'll be very surprised who's receptive to what you have to say. You just have to say it. Really, you just have to.
Not have that fear.
You can't have that fear.
Say what you think.
Right. And like I said, I feel like, once again, if my biggest concern is, once again, bringing more creative opportunity to the workforce, once again, diversifying the workforce in terms of people's culture and ethnicity, I have to be authentic in the narrative. Because how am I going to tell you why we need to have this diversity and this inclusivity for not only people of different ethnic backgrounds, but from the more creative aspect of design, all these different things, when I can't be true to the narrative? I have to do that. That's the storyline. That's the tagline. You get me? And if I have to tell you why we need this diversity, there's not a lot of positive things to say, or else there wouldn't be a need for it, So it's kind of because of why I'm starting the business, there's no reason to change my narrative, and there's no reason to feel uncomfortable saying it, because that's the reason for it.
Absolutely. That was a great answer. So now I wanna ask you this one final question.
Yes.
You have 60 seconds to say anything at all to a room full of timid, unsure women.
Awesome.
That have ideas for how to start a business, that have an idea of a business. They just don't know what to do. All they have is an idea. You have 60 seconds to inspire them. What are you gonna do?
So first things first, stay tuned for this summer. A partner of mine, we're actually coming out with a podcast, literally working towards fulfilling the purpose of women, both professionally and entrepreneurially. Everyone does not need to be an entrepreneur. I always say start something off as a project and see how people receive it. If you feel like it wasn't working well, keep working towards rebuilding it, restructuring it, readjusting it, and seeing how people feel about that. But really and truly, whatever you care about passionately, just try it out. Just go for it. You get me? Even if it's creating a soap in your bathroom or shea butter, it's always your first step to entrepreneurship. Even people like Elon Musk, he started off with a partner selling cereal boxes for like a couple $100s, and that was their way of funding the real business that they actually wanted to do. So don't let anybody discourage you in terms of your idea. When you say it, it may not sound intriguing. When you put it out there, people may like it. Just put it out there.
Awesome. I got inspired just from that, and I was
Right?
I wasn't even one of the women in the audience, you know.
Juju, I wanna thank you so much for coming and inspiring. I would hope the women that's listening are definitely inspired by entrepreneurs as a whole. As you said, this is the age of entrepreneurship. Thankfully to our generation that's very creative, so it's definitely something to kind of point out. But again, I do want you guys, as you will be listening to this when this comes out during work, on your way home or in the gym, wherever you are, to definitely take keys from what she's kind of discussed, because that's the point. I know you guys have been asking for a long time to have a female entrepreneur on this, so here she is, and she's giving you guys the blueprint. So definitely go forward and definitely take keys for your own business or your own ideas that you have. You guys want to add anything to that?
Well, Daniel, you want to?
Yes, I just want to have you share with the audience how they can get in contact with you for your business.
Right.
Do you have a website, things like
We'll
that?
put this in our links. We'll put this on the video, but tell us how to find you.
Yes, absolutely. So once again, Instagram, Millennivision, MILLENI Vision. Please know how to spell that. But once again, it will be in the link, and once you get there, you'll find out everything else. Just a heads up, we're actually releasing our landing site during the week of the 17th of this month, and that will bring clarity to everything that we plan on putting forth.
Oh, absolutely. Perfect. So, guys, there you have it. Millennivision or Visions.
Vision.
Millennivision. Stay on the lookout for Juju. She's a trailblazer and a real inspiration for everybody out there. And we really want to thank you for coming on the Danso Financial Podcast.
Thank you.
This has been a great episode.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll be having this podcast out, as Charles said. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. Be sure to watch out for our videos on YouTube, and it'll be coming soon to you guys.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.